The deep black of space stretched endlessly around the damaged transport ship. Starhaven, her hull was cracked. Lights flickered in the corridors, and the main engines gave only a weak hum. Inside, the crew moved like shadows, their steps hurried. Their voices hushed. Commander Vera stood at the main control panel, her hands shaking as she typed the emergency signal. Her voice, low but urgent, carried through the comms system. To any who can hear us. We are under attack. Our engines are down. We have wounded. Please, we are dying. The message was simple, but it carried fear. It carried the weight of lives on the edge. She hit the send key, and the signal left the ship, rushing out into the dark, a desperate whisper into the void. Around her, the crew waited, staring at the comm screen, waiting for a reply that did not come. 1 minute passed, then 5, then 10. They all knew the truth. Most signals like this went unanswered. Why? Because it was dangerous. Pirates ruled this part of space, and anyone who came to help would also be hunted. The Starhaven was just another dying ship to most, but the youngest crew member, a slim alien with bright amber eyes, spoke up quietly. "Commander, I saw the transmission log. We sent the signal to Earth." Heads turned, whispers spread. Earth, the Deathworld. The name was enough to freeze the air in the room. Deathworlders were not like other species. They came from a planet that tried to kill them every day. Storms, beasts, disease, fire, cold. And they had survived all of it. To most of the galaxy, humans were dangerous predators. Some said they fought wars like no one else, that they built warships so strong they were banned from certain sectors. Others said they were unpredictable. They could save you or destroy you, depending on their choice. Vera didn't know what to believe. She had never met a human before, but she did know one thing. No one sent a message to Earth unless they were truly desperate. And she had been desperate. The crew began to argue. What if they come here and take the ship? One asked, what if they kill us after saving us? Another added, they won't come at all. A third muttered, humans don't answer strangers. Vera raised her hand, silencing them. She kept her eyes on the comms console, on the tiny green light that meant their signal was still broadcasting. Out there somewhere, maybe a human had heard, maybe right now. They were deciding whether the Starhaven was worth their time. Hours passed. The wounded lay in the medbay, whispering in pain. The ship floated in the cold dark, drifting slowly. Outside the windows, the stars looked sharp and far away. Every sound, every creak of the hull, every hum of the weak life support, felt louder than it should. It was the sound of waiting, the sound of fear. Then, the comms beeped. Everyone froze. A voice came through, deep, calm, steady, and unlike any voice they had heard before. "This is Admiral Kane of the United Nations Fleet," it said. "You are not alone. Hold position, help is coming." The room fell silent, the only sound the soft crackle of the comms. The crew looked at each other, unsure if they should feel hope or more fear. But Vera felt something else, a strange mix of relief and tension. She didn't know who this Admiral Kane was. She didn't know how many ships the humans would send. But she knew one thing. Deathworlders had heard their call, and Deathworlders had answered. She stood a little straighter. "Prepare for incoming ships," she told her crew. No one moved for a moment, still stunned by the reality, and somewhere, deep in space, far beyond the range of their sensors, engines were roaring to life. A fleet was forming, and it was heading straight for them. The hours after the human message were tense. The crew of the Starhaven gathered in the common area, their voices low, their eyes restless. Some paced the floor, others sat in silence, but all were thinking the same thing. Humans were coming. To most of them, the thought was both a relief and a threat. The youngest crew member, Rill, leaned forward, his voice no louder than a whisper. "Do you know what I heard? They say a single human ship once destroyed an entire pirate fleet in under 10 minutes. A tall engineer with silver skin shook his head. "No, that's nothing. I've heard they can survive in places that kill other species in seconds. Poisonous worlds, burning skies, freezing oceans. Another crew member, an older navigator, looked up from her seat, her tone serious. I was on a station once when humans visited. They moved differently. Like predators, even when they were smiling. Vera listened without speaking, her mind replaying the human voice from the coms. It hadn't been loud or threatening, but there was something in the tone, something that made her believe they meant every word. They hadn't promised safety, but they had said they were coming. And Deathworlders, everyone knew, did not waste words. The Star Haven was a small vessel, barely armed, built for trade runs between colonies. Its crew had seen danger before, small raids, minor accidents, but nothing like the recent pirate attack. Those pirates had been ruthless, burning through the ship's defenses as if they were paper. They had left the crew alive only because they thought no one would come to help. But now, word would spread fast once the humans arrived. In the far corner, an alien merchant named Doro spoke, his tone bitter. Humans are not saviors, they are opportunists. They will come, yes, but they will want payment, maybe even your ship. Rill frowned. And if they wanted to take it, who could stop them? No one, that's who. The room fell quiet. It was true. No one had ever won a full battle against humans in direct combat. Even the great powers of the galaxy avoided provoking them. Vera finally spoke, her voice steady. We sent the SOS because we had no choice. No other fleet would come for us. Not here, not now. Humans are our only chance. She looked around at the weary faces. If they come for something, we will decide how to answer then. But first we survive. The crew nodded slowly. They knew she was right. Survival came first. Outside, space remained quiet. But every star seemed to carry a hidden message. Somewhere out there, warships were moving. The thought made the air feel heavy. Was it the weight of safety approaching? Or the weight of something far more dangerous? Rill broke the silence again. Do you think they'll send one ship? The engineer chuckled without humor. Humans don't send one ship. They send enough to end a fight before it begins. That image stuck in everyone's minds. A wall of human steel, moving like a single creature, crushing anything in its path. In the medbay, even the injured were whispering about the humans. One crewman, pale and weak from blood loss, told the medic, if they really come, I want to see their ships before I die. Another, eyes half closed, muttered, they say human warships have scars from every battle they've fought, but they never break apart. The medic didn't answer, but deep down, she wanted to see them too. Hours blurred together. The Star Haven drifted in the dark. The engines too damaged to move far. The comms stayed open, waiting for the next human transmission, but none came. It was as if the humans had spoken once and then vanished into silence. Vera kept checking the systems, not out of doubt, but because the waiting felt endless. At one point, Doro muttered, maybe they were lying. Maybe they won't come at all. But before the words could settle, the ship's sensors picked up something faint. A ripple in the void. A distant energy signature, faint but growing. Vera stepped closer to the display, her heart steady but her hands tense. She didn't say it aloud, but she knew what it meant. Something, or someone, was moving toward them. The crew noticed too. Their eyes followed the shifting blip on the sensor screen. It was too far to read, but it was coming fast. Faster than any standard ship in this sector, and in that moment, they all felt it. The rumors might soon become reality. No one spoke for the rest of the night cycle. They sat in uneasy silence, staring out at the dark. Some hoped for salvation, others braced for conquest. But all of them knew one thing: when humans came, the galaxy changed around them, and now the Star Haven was about to be part of that change. The moment came without warning. One heartbeat, the Star Haven drifted in the endless dark. The next, the void ahead shimmered with the ripples of an FTL drop. Every eye on the bridge turned toward the forward viewport. Space twisted, light bent. And then, with a low, deep vibration that seemed to hum through the walls, a massive shadow emerged. It was unlike anything the crew had ever seen. The ship was enormous. A spear of black metal cutting through the stars. Its hull was scarred in places, long marks where weapons had struck it in past battles. Yet nothing about it looked damaged. Every plate, every glowing edge spoke of power. The nose of the vessel carried the symbol of Earth's United Nations fleet, a silver emblem on a field of dark steel. It moved with a kind of controlled aggression, like a predator gliding toward prey. The comms crackled again. "This is Admiral Kane of the Uns Valiant. You are now under Earth's protection." The voice was steady, calm, and cold in a way that made the crew shiver. There was no boast, no threat, just a statement of fact. Under Earth's protection. Vera stood frozen for a moment, her hands gripping the edge of the console. She had imagined many things when they sent the SOS. A small scout ship. A single cruiser maybe, but not this. Not something that seemed to swallow the stars behind. Then the sensors lit up again. One by one, new signatures appeared on the display. Each one large, fast, and heavily armed. Another warship dropped from FTL. Then another, and another, until the space around Starhaven was filled with steel giants. Destroyers, carriers, missile frigates, stealth cruisers, every class of human warship she had ever heard of and more. Some bristled with weapon turrets that tracked every movement in the void. Others carried massive launch bays that hinted at hundreds of fighters waiting inside. The crew stared in silent awe. Even Doro, who had been the loudest skeptic, said nothing now. The scale of it was overwhelming. Humans had not sent help. They had sent dominance. It was a full fleet. Why would they send so many for us? Rill whispered. Vera didn't answer, because she wasn't sure herself. Maybe the humans saw every threat as worth crushing completely. Maybe they were making a statement to whoever had attacked Starhaven. Or maybe this wasn't only about them. The largest ship, the Valiant, moved closer. Its engines burned with a dull blue light, pushing it forward without a sound. The sheer size made Starhaven feel like a child's toy in comparison. Yet there was a strange precision in the way it moved, no wasted motion. No hesitation. A docking signal came through. The humans weren't asking permission. They were telling them to prepare. Within minutes, a smaller human dropship detached from the Valiant, its sleek black frame streaking toward them. It locked to Starhaven's forward bay with a deep metallic thud. When the airlock opened, the first human stepped inside. The crew's breath caught. The man was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a dark armored uniform with the Earth emblem on his chest. His eyes scanned the room with quick, efficient movements. He carried no visible weapon, yet every step made it clear he didn't need one to be dangerous. Behind him came others, medics in white and gray suits, engineers with heavy tool cases, security officers who moved like they already knew where trouble might come from. They didn't waste time. On greetings, medics went straight to the injured, engineers moved to the engine room. Security spread through the corridors. It was as if they had already studied the Starhaven before even boarding. Admiral Kane's voice came again, this time through the human officer standing in front of Vera. "You are safe now, Commander. But your attackers will not be." The words were simple, but they carried a weight. Vera could feel it. These were not the kind of people who made empty promises. If they said someone would be dealt with, it would be done. She wanted to ask why they had come in such force, but before she could speak, a warning ping sounded from the human's wrist device. His gaze sharpened. "They're here," he said quietly. Vera's stomach turned. She didn't need to ask who. Outside, far beyond the ring of human ships, the pirates had returned. They were expecting an easy kill. Instead, they had flown straight into the jaws of Earth's fleet. The pirates came in fast. Their ships burst from FTL with bright flashes, their engines glowing red, their weapons already powering up. From the Starhaven's viewport, they looked like a swarm of black steel insects closing in for the kill. The crew tensed. some stepping back from the glass as if distance would keep them safe. Vera stood frozen, watching as the threat grew larger on the sensors. The pirates didn't know what they were flying into. They thought they were returning to finish off a broken transport. They expected fear, surrender, and helplessness instead. They found the cold wall of the human fleet waiting for them. The Uns Valiant was at the center, her black hull cutting a sharp figure against the stars. Around her, destroyers, cruisers, and missile frigates formed a tight circle. Every ship's weapons tracked the incoming pirates with smooth precision. It was a silent, unmoving trap, and the humans waited, letting the enemy come closer. From the Valiant's bridge, Admiral Kane gave no long speech. He didn't shout orders or threaten. He simply said, "Target weapons, fire on my mark." On every human ship, targeting systems locked in, long-range guns, missile pods, rail cannons all aimed at the advancing swarm. The pirates slowed for a moment, realizing something was wrong, but before they could scatter, Kane's voice cut through the comms. "Mark!" The void lit up, beams of white-hot energy lanced across the darkness, slamming into the first wave of pirate ships. 3 exploded instantly, their hulls tearing apart in fire. Missiles streaked from human destroyers, weaving between the debris to strike ships still trying to turn. A rail cannon on the Valiant fired, the slug moving so fast it tore through 2 pirate cruisers in one shot. From Star Haven, the alien crew watched in stunned silence. There was no chaos in the human attack. Every shot landed exactly where it was meant to. Every movement of the fleet was sharp and deliberate. This wasn't a battle. It was a dismantling. The pirates tried to fight back. A few managed to fire torpedoes, but human point defense systems shredded them before they came close. Others turned to flee, their engines burning bright. But human interceptors launched from the carriers, darting through space like a storm of steel birds. One by one, fleeing pirate ships vanished in bursts of flame. Within minutes, half the pirate fleet was gone. The survivors began to scatter in panic. Kane's voice came again, calm as before. No survivors. The human ships moved forward in perfect formation, closing in like a tightening fist. Any pirate ship that tried to hide behind debris was flushed out and destroyed. Any that went dark to fake a power failure was scanned, targeted, and silenced. In less than 10 minutes, the space around Star Haven was quiet again. Only drifting wreckage and the fading glow of explosions remained. The human fleet didn't cheer, didn't slow down. They simply returned to formation, weapons still ready. The message was clear. This was routine for them. To humans, even overwhelming victory was just another day. On the Star Haven's bridge, the crew could hardly believe it. The same pirates who had ripped through their defenses like paper were gone as if they had never existed. Rill's voice was barely a whisper. They didn't even break a sweat. Doro swallowed hard, no longer able to hide the respect in his eyes. This is why they're feared. Vera felt something shift inside her. For the first time since the attack, she wasn't just relieved, she was certain. The Star Haven was safe, at least for now, but she also knew this battle wasn't over. If the pirates had been bold enough to attack here, it meant someone powerful had sent them. Her thoughts were interrupted when the human officer from earlier stepped back onto the bridge. "The Admiral wants to speak with you," he said simply. Vera followed him to the comm station. The screen flickered, and Admiral Kane's face appeared, sharp features, steady eyes. "A man used to command, Commander," he said. "That was no random pirate strike." Vera nodded slowly. "You think someone sent them?" "I know someone sent them," Kane replied. "And I intend to find out who." Outside the viewport, the human fleet began to move again. They weren't retreating, they were preparing for something bigger. The battle had been swift, but it had only been the opening move. The wreckage of the pirate fleet still floated in the dark. Twisted metal drifted slowly, lit only by the distant stars and the cold glow of human ships. On the Valiant's bridge, Admiral Kane stood at the tactical display, his eyes locked on streams of incoming data. Around him, Human officers worked in silence, scanning every piece of debris for clues. From the Star Haven, Vera watched the human flagship through the viewport. She couldn't see what they were doing, but she knew. They weren't just cleaning up. The battle had been too easy, too short. The pirates had fought like hired hands, not like desperate raiders. And that meant someone else was pulling the strings. A chime sounded on the Valiant's bridge. "Admiral, we found something," a sensor officer reported. Kane stepped closer. The display shifted, showing the jagged remains of a pirate command ship. Among the debris, a small pulsing beacon was still transmitting. It wasn't a distress call, it was a coded data burst, the kind that only high-level military factions used. "Trace it," Kane ordered. The officer's fingers moved quickly over the console. Within moments, the source was clear. The transmission was tagged with a Syndicate encryption key. Kane's jaw tightened. The Galactic Syndicate, a vast and shadowy alliance of powerful factions that controlled entire sectors. They were known for smuggling, political manipulation, and crushing anyone who threatened their power. And they had one rule they made every race follow: stay out of their trade routes. Humans had ignored that rule more than once. The Syndicate had hated them for it. On the Star Haven, the docking channel opened, and the human officer returned. He gestured for Vera to follow, leading her to a small meeting room where a hololink to Kane was active. The Admiral's voice was calm but cold. "Commander, you..." Attackers weren't simple pirates, they were Syndicate assets. Vera's brow furrowed. "Why would the Syndicate care about us?" "We're just a trade vessel." Kane's eyes narrowed. "You were passing through a corridor they want to control. They sent the pirates to remove you and send a warning to others." Vera's pulse quickened. If the Syndicate had been behind the attack, then the humans had just destroyed one of their operations, and the retaliation would be swift. She didn't need to ask what came next. Kane answered it anyway. "They'll send more ships, bigger ships. And they'll bring allies. This wasn't about you anymore. Commander, it's about them and us." Outside, the human fleet began to reposition. Destroyers moved into a tighter formation. Carriers launched small scout craft to sweep the edges of the sector. On the Valiant, weapon systems stayed hot. Shields remained at full power. This wasn't a victory celebration. It was preparation for the next move. Vera looked at Kane's image. "What will you do now?" He didn't hesitate. "We go to them," he said. Her eyes widened. "You mean into Syndicate space?" "Yes," Kane replied. "We don't wait for them to come. We strike first. Show them Earth does not tolerate attacks on those under our protection." There was a steel in his voice that silenced the room, Vera felt. A strange mix of fear and admiration. The humans weren't just defending, they were declaring war. And they were doing it without hesitation. Rill, who had been listening from the corner, stepped forward. "But their fleets are huge. I've seen Syndicate battle stations." Kane cut him off. "Size doesn't win wars, resolve does." The words hung in the air, heavy and absolute. Minutes later, orders rippled through the fleet. Navigation plotted a course into Syndicate-controlled space. Engine crews brought reactors to full burn. Every human ship turned as one, their formation shifting like a single living thing. From the Star Haven, the sight was breathtaking. The black silhouettes of warships moved against the stars, their engines flaring in unison. It was like watching a tide of steel roll forward, unstoppable and unafraid. Vera knew the Syndicate wouldn't expect this. They were used to fear, to hesitation, to enemies hiding in safe zones. They weren't used to Deathworlders charging straight at them. Kane's voice came over the general channel. "To the crew of the Star Haven, you called for help. And now you're under Earth's banner. What happens next will shake the sectors. But you will not be left behind." His tone was calm, but the promise was there. The humans would see this. Through to the end, the fleet surged forward. In the distance, the first jump points lit up, swallowing the human warships in bright arcs of energy. One by one, the ships vanished into FTL. The Valiant was last, its dark hull shimmering before it disappeared. The Star Haven followed, escorted by 2 human cruisers. They were no longer just a damaged trade ship. They were part of something much bigger. And ahead lay the heart of Syndicate power, waiting for a fight it didn't yet know it would lose. The human fleet cut through FTL space like a silent storm. Inside the Star Haven, Vera felt the faint vibration of the jump drives, a constant reminder that they were heading into the heart of enemy territory. No one spoke much, every crew member feeling the weight of where they were going. Only the hum of the engines and the soft beeps from the consoles broke the silence. From the Valiant's bridge, Admiral Kane watched the navigational holomap. Bright blue lines showed the fleet's path, cutting deep into Syndicate space. Every few minutes, scouts sent back reports. Abandoned stations, empty patrol routes, and signs of ships retreating ahead of them. The Syndicate knew the Deathworlders were coming, and it was already shifting its forces. On the third day of the march, the first distress signal came in. A freighter convoy under attack near the Astera belt. The Syndicate's raiders had pinned them against an asteroid cluster. Before Kane even gave the order, 3 destroyers and a carrier broke formation and jumped ahead. The response was swift. Within minutes, the human ships were ripping through the raiders, freeing the convoy. One of the rescued captains, an old reptilian trader, said over the comms, "We didn't believe the rumors, but now we've seen it. Humans don't leave anyone behind." Word spread fast. Each sector they crossed brought more messages, more ships in need, and each time the humans answered. They didn't just destroy enemy ships, they escorted damaged allies, repaired broken drives, and shared supplies. The Star Haven's crew watched this with growing amazement. It was clear the humans weren't just here to fight. They were here to protect. By the end of the week, the fleet had grown. It wasn't just human ships now. Alien vessels that had once feared Earth were falling into formation beside them. Some were small corvettes, others heavy cruisers with patched hulls, all ready to follow the Deathworlders into battle. Real stared at the expanding fleet through the viewport, his voice full of wonder. It's like they're building an army without even asking for one. But the deeper they went, the more dangerous the space became. Syndicate patrols appeared more often, testing the edges of the human formation. Small skirmishes broke out, quick bursts of fire in the dark. Each time the humans pushed them back, never losing the ship, never slowing down. In the quiet hours between engagements, Vera found herself studying the Valiant. Its black hull was a moving fortress, its weapon systems always active. Yet there was something about it that wasn't just raw strength. It was discipline, unity, and purpose. She began to understand why the galaxy feared humans. It wasn't just their weapons. It was their will. One night cycle, the Star Haven's sensors picked up a massive wreck drifting near a dying star. The ship was an old battleship, its hull marked with Syndicate insignia. When a boarding team went inside, they found signs of a brutal battle and survivors. They were prisoners from half a dozen species, left to die when the Syndicate abandoned the ship. The humans freed them without hesitation, giving them food, water, and space aboard the escort ships. One of the freed captains, still weak from captivity, told Vera, "If this fleet reaches Syndicate Prime, it will be the end of them." Kane's officers knew the Syndicate was watching. Every jump the humans made, every rescue, every fight, all of it was being reported back to Syndicate Command. But instead of hiding their movements, Kane seemed to make them more visible. He wanted the enemy to know they were coming. He wanted them to feel the march like a drumbeat, getting louder each day. By the 10th day, the fleet reached the border of the Syndicate's core sectors. Here, the stars seemed colder, the space lanes emptier. It was the calm before the storm. Scouts reported a massive enemy fleet forming near Syndicate Prime. The numbers were overwhelming, 5 times the size of Kane's forces. But the Admiral didn't flinch. He stood on the Valiant's command deck, his voice steady over the fleet-wide channel. "We have crossed their space. We have broken their lines. And we have freed their prisoners. Now we finish this." His words carried through every ship, human and alien alike. Vera felt her chest tighten. This was no longer just a mission. It was history in the making. The fleet slowed as navigators plotted the final jump. The Star Haven was near the center now, surrounded by human warships on all sides. Their dark hulls glowed faintly in the starlight. Like silent guardians, when the jump coordinates locked in, Kane gave the order. All ships, prepare for final engagement. The engines roared. The stars outside stretched into long streams of light as the fleet surged forward. In moments, they would be in the heart of Syndicate power. And there, the true test of the Deathworlders would begin. The fleet dropped out of FTL into a wall of enemy ships. Before the Star Haven's crew could even take a full breath, the blackness of space was filled with Syndicate warcraft. They stretched in every direction, hundreds of vessels forming a vast ring around Syndicate Prime, massive dreadnoughts with thick armor, swift destroyers bristling with weapons, carriers launching fighters even before the humans had fully arrived. The odds were impossible, 5-1 against the Deathworlders. On the Valiant's bridge, Admiral Kane studied the tactical map. His officers moved quickly, updating firing arcs and ship positions. No panic, no wasted words. Every human on that deck had trained for moments like this. Kane's voice came over the fleet channel, steady as stone. Formation Delta 3, carriers hold the center. Destroyers and frigates on the flanks, no ship fights alone. The human fleet shifted like a living thing. Warships turned in perfect unison, filling the gaps, lining up their weapons. Even with the enemy so much larger, the formation was tight. Controlled. Vera watched from the Star Haven, her chest tight. The humans looked small compared to the Syndicate armada, but there was a power in the way they moved. It was like watching a pack of predators surrounded by prey that didn't yet know it was prey. The Syndicate struck first. A rain of torpedoes streaked through the dark, followed by heavy plasma fire. The humans didn't flinch, their point defense systems came alive, filling space with a deadly web of counterfire. Explosions lit the void as incoming missiles were shredded. Those that got through slammed into human shields, glowing ripples spreading across the hull plating. But nothing broke. Kane's voice was calm, almost cold. Return fire. The Valiant's main cannons roared, sending slugs the size of shuttles into the nearest Syndicate battleship. The impact tore through its armor, venting fire and debris into the void. On the flanks, human missile ships launched volleys in perfect timing, their warheads slamming into enemy cruisers with surgical precision. The battle became a storm. Fighters swarmed between the massive ships, weaving through bursts of energy fire. Human interceptors moved like streaks of lightning, cutting down Syndicate bombers before they could get close. The carriers at the fleet center launched wave after wave, keeping the pressure high, never letting the enemy regroup. From the Star Haven's bridge, the view was overwhelming. It was chaos to the untrained eye. Explosions blooming, ships twisting, weapons flashing. But Vera could see the pattern now. The humans were carving open weak points, then pushing their heavy ships through like a blade through armor. Every move was part of a larger plan. On the right flank, a human destroyer took a direct hit, its hull venting flame, before it could drift out of position. Two frigates moved in, shielding it, dragging it back into formation. No ship was abandoned, no matter the damage. That unity shook the Syndicate commanders. They were used to enemies breaking apart under fire, but the humans only fought harder. Hours passed like minutes. Both sides had losses, but the Syndicates were mounting faster. Their command structure began to crack. Signals overlapping, ships breaking formation. Kane saw the moment in the data feed. All ships, push forward, he ordered. The Valiant led the charge, her railguns pounding the Syndicate flagship shields until they collapsed. A volley of heavy missiles followed, tearing open the massive vessel's core. The explosion was so bright it lit the battlefield for seconds. The destruction of the flagship sent a ripple of panic through the Syndicate fleet. Human ships didn't give them a moment to recover. The destroyers swept in, targeting engines and power cores. Frigates darted between the larger ships, planting precision shots into weapon systems. Every move was meant to cripple, not just kill. It was a message: you cannot win against us. By the time the last Syndicate cruiser tried to flee, the human fleet had already closed the trap. Survivors surrendered, drifting powerless in the shadow of the Valiant. Silence settled over the comms except for Kane's voice. Sector secure. From the Star Haven, cheers erupted. Rill grinned through tears. They did it. They actually did it. Even Doro, who had doubted from the start, lowered his head in respect. Vera stared at the dark giant of the Valiant, knowing she had just seen history change in front of her eyes. But Kane wasn't celebrating. On his bridge, he looked over the reports of the battle, noting every loss, every damaged ship. Victory was never free, yet in his eyes, there was no doubt this fight had been worth every risk. The Syndicate's grip on the galaxy had been broken here, and the Deathworlders had done it in full view of everyone. The message was clear. If you strike at those under Earth's protection, you face Earth's fleet. The battlefield was quiet now. Only drifting debris and the faint glow of damaged ships marked where the Syndicate fleet had stood. The human warships held position, their dark hulls steady against the stars. Engines low, weapons still hot just in case. The Star Haven floated among them, small and fragile in comparison, yet untouchable within the human formation. On the Valiant's bridge, Admiral Kane stood with his hands behind his back. His officers moved with calm efficiency, cataloging wreckage, tracking surrender signals, and directing rescue teams. The battle was over, but the work was not. Prisoners were being recovered from Syndicate ships, soldiers, merchants, and civilians from worlds the Syndicate had crushed. For years, now they were free. Vera stood at the Star Haven's viewport. She watched human medics guide the freed captives aboard waiting carriers. Engineers worked tirelessly to repair ships damaged in the fight. Security teams escorted Syndicate officers into custody, without cruelty, but with absolute authority. It was order after chaos, discipline after destruction. When the comms pinged, she was surprised to hear Kane's voice. "Commander Vera, I'd like to speak with you in person." Moments later, a small human shuttle docked with the Star Haven. Kane himself stepped through the airlock, his presence filling the corridor without a word. They met in the main control room, up close. Kane's expression was unreadable, but his eyes carried the weight of what they had just achieved. "Your SOS brought us here," he said, "and because of it, we not only stopped a pirate raid, we broke a Syndicate fleet." Vera nodded slowly, unsure how to answer. Kane continued, "The galaxy will remember this day, but they'll also remember that you were the spark that lit it." She hesitated, then asked, "What happens now?" Kane glanced toward the viewport, where the human fleet still held its perfect formation. "Now we build something stronger than fear," he replied. "We want the Star Haven and her crew to join our protected convoys, not as passengers, but as partners." The word partners struck her more deeply than she expected. For so long, her ship had been just another small trader trying to survive in the shadows of greater powers. Now the most feared fleet in the galaxy was offering her a place beside them. Rill stepped forward, his voice unsure. "Does that mean we fly with you? Fight with you?" Kane's mouth curved in the faintest smile. "If you choose to, yes, we train those who wish to learn. We arm those who need protection, and we make it clear. Anyone who sails under Earth's banner will not be touched." Word spread quickly through the Star Haven. Some were cautious, others were eager, but all understood the meaning. They were no longer alone. Doro, the merchant who had once doubted the humans, quietly told Vera, "You'd be a fool to refuse this, Commander. They are not just warriors. They are a shield." Later, on the Valiant's main deck, Kane stood before a crowd, human officers, rescued captives, and alien allies who had joined the fleet. His voice carried without needing to be raised. Today was not the end of a war. It was the start of something greater. We showed that no one is too small to be defended. No one is beyond the reach of justice. From this day forward, if you call for help, Earth will answer. The words echoed in the silence that followed. It wasn't a boast. It was a vow, Vera felt it settle deep in her chest. The Deathworlders had earned their fearsome reputation. But now she saw the truth. Their greatest weapon wasn't their ships or their guns. It was their loyalty. As the fleet prepared to depart, the Starhaven moved into a new position, near the center of the formation. Its hull repairs were underway, its systems upgraded with human technology. Reel ran his hand over the new console. In awe, "It's like the ship has been reborn," he whispered. One by one, the human warships jumped to FTL, their engines flaring like brief suns in the dark. The Starhaven followed, her small frame riding in the shadow of giants. Vera stood at the helm, her eyes on the starfield ahead. For the first time in her career, she wasn't navigating alone. She was part of a fleet, part of something greater than survival, somewhere far beyond the next jump. Other ships might be sending desperate SOS signals, and now she knew the fleet she was with would answer them, because that was what the Deathworlders did, and now, so would she.